Alright, so what's an attuned weapon? It's a .4 weapon that you put into Artifact Foundry and you awaken it with 144k, 3 siphoned energy, 3 Avalonian energy. When it comes to higher tiers, they cost more to awaken. If the weapon is awakened, it will gain stats, like here. When you scroll down, if it's tuned, you got traits and you got stats. First things first, attuned to. If it's attuned to me and I trade it to you, you can still use the weapon, but you don't gain any benefit from these stats here. Second is attunement. This is basically EXP of the attuned weapon, and you spend this EXP to upgrade these traits here. The more you upgrade, the more capacity on attunement you gain. So then we got legendary rating. It's really irrelevant to us right now, but I'll explain it regardless. So the higher it is, the more chance for the weapon not to trash, but instead become lost. Lost weapons are weapons that got transferred to black market, right? So if you kill a player with highly attuned weapon here, but it's about to trash, it's gonna say in the loot chat instead, the weapon was lost. So you didn't gain it, no one really gained it, it went to black market, and a PvE player somewhere else in the world might receive this attuned weapon in a PvE chest or by a mob drop or whatever. Now, to give you a heads up, I play this game for like 5+ years. I've never seen an attuned weapon drop from a chest. Maybe once I've heard a rumor that it did. That's about it. So strain, right? Let's see. It's difficult to explain. So basically, strain goes up as you upgrade a weapon, as you replace its traits. As the strain goes up, it scales the price of upgrade and replace trait. So if you were to go to like strain 47, let's go here, strain 76 with these stats, right? I put the holy staff in, upgrade trait, 400k to upgrade one trait. It's because the strain is 76. If I were to use this weapon, upgrade trait, only 200k because the strain is 47. So attunement bonus. The higher you roll these stats, the less of percentage they gain per crit, right? So if you were to crit a roll at like 0.5%, it might increase by 3 or 4% even. But if you were to crit a roll at like 10%, it will only increase by like point something or by 1%, depending on the trait really. So that's attunement bonus. The higher you roll, the less attunement you gain per upgrade. Attuned to Pony. There's 3 ways to reattune a weapon to yourself. One way is killing a player that already owns the attuned weapon, getting the final blow to gain a kill. If the weapon doesn't trash, it's yours, it's attuned to you. Second way is, if the weapon is not attuned to you, you reattune it to yourself at Artifact Foundry by putting a weapon into here, and it's gonna say like a cost here. You pay the price to reattune it to yourself. Third way is, if a weapon is attuned to someone else, but you wanna reattune it for free to yourself, you can gamble. So let's say to reattune this weapon, you need to pay 6 million. Maybe you bought it for like what, 10 mil. If you're a rich player and you don't want to pay another 6 mil, you can gamba. To gamba, you go to personal island, you go to like an instance which no one else can access but you. Usually personal island. You slash suicide on personal island, come back to the body, and if the weapon didn't trash, it's attuned to you because you basically killed yourself. So because you killed yourself, that weapon that was on you retuned to you, assuming it doesn't trash. Trash rate is, I believe, 30%, but sometimes it really feels like it's 70%. Alright, so now we have attunement. So there's a little trick when it comes to this. In order to reattune a weapon, you need to pay the price. And you need to physically hold the weapon in your hand, put it into Artifact Foundry, and check the reattunement price. But you can estimate the reattunement price. If you were to check the maximum attunement capacity of a weapon and add a 0 to it at the end, reattunement is basically 1.5 mil on this weapon. Or here, 1.52. Here, 1.62. 1.48, right? Or on this weapon, 6 mil. So that's a rough estimate. The higher the attunement capacity goes, the more deviation there is when it comes to the reattunement price. So on this, I wouldn't estimate 6 mil, I would instead estimate 8 mil. But on this weapon, 1.5, I would estimate 1.8 or 1.9. Right, so the deviation is higher here. And sometimes the lower it is, deviation sometimes like 20%, 30%, 40%, right? Depending on how high the attunement is. But you're estimating, so the specifics don't really matter. You get to figure out a range of reattunement. And that's good enough when you're buying a weapon. Legendary rating, completely irrelevant. Strain. Okay, so a good strain, what's considered a good strain? Look at this 26% PV fame. If this was 26 only, and the strain was 76, never worth buying. In 1,000 years, you really don't want to buy this. You're gonna pay like 3 mil to buy this shit, and then you're gonna pay like 2-ish mil to reattune it. Not worth it. It's only worth it if the strain is like 30%, sorry, times 30 or times 40 at most, and it's 26% PV fame, then it's maybe worth buying the weapon. But if it's 76 and you only got this, it's not worth it. But if you got like 26% fame and you got 10% cooldown rate, or whatever 10% here is, then it might be worth it to buy at 50 strain, 60, even 70, because you got 2 traits on pretty high rolls. But if it's 1 trait and it's more than 40 times strain, it's really not worth it. So that's when it comes to strain. Strain also scales reattunement cost, but it's too much math to go into.